this computer. I'm going to admit everybody in.
And I'm going to make sure I have your...
Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Hello, hello. Hey, Marsha. Hey, John. Hey, Pam. Hey, Paula. How's everybody on this lovely... I can't believe it's Friday. Can you, Scott? And it's September 1st. Crazy, right?
Oh, yeah. First of the month. I didn't even think about that.
Right? So good to
Wow.
see everybody. I know there's a lot of people trickling in because it is exactly 9. So we're going to wait maybe like a minute or two while people are coming in from the email. But while we're waiting, hey, Jennifer, I'm going to try to say hello to as many of you as possible. Vilma, I see you. I like that picture of you and that. Is that a donkey there? Is that DC? That's a really
Looks like
cool
Yes,
donkey.
it is.
Okay.
It's a donkey. That was during the Obama ceremony, whatever.
President.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, good
So
to
it's
have you here.
it's the Democrat donkey in front of the Capitol building. That's very cool.
Wow.
Yeah, thanks.
So how's everybody doing? Feel free to drop in the chat. So you guys, the chat is open at any point of this webinar. If you'd like to comment, you'd like to ask a question, just feel free to do that. Try not to come off mute unless you raise your virtual Zoom hand or send me a message, just to kind of respect the, us speaking. But if you guys can let me know as the last couple people are trickling in, where are you guys calling from? Well, first of all, tell me your guys' names in the chat. Please drop where you're calling from and also where it is in the world that you want to move abroad. I don't know if you guys know me. I'm Shauna, but I have lived in 4 different countries and I'm the owner of Move Overseas Now. How many of you guys have actually been on the summits? Put me in the chat. If you've been, I know Scott has, you were on the last one, right? Yeah. So put me in the chat if you've been to a summit, if this is your first of our live events. Super good, happy to see all you guys. I'm actually calling you from India right now. I'm digital nomading in India, and that's exactly what you guys can create, if you want to be a digital nomad, if you're looking to retire abroad. I've done it all besides the retiring part yet, but I've done all the visa processes and I help people do that. So any types of questions that you guys have, I do cover more of the other specifics. On Sundays, we do this thing called the Move Overseas Now Club. This call is specifically regarding finances, but I'm still happy to help you guys. Feel free to reach out to me via email. I think you should see my email kind of pop up here over my face. Let's see what everybody's saying. Oh, wow, you guys are a chatty bunch today. I only see a couple people have responded. Stacy said she's been in 1 summit. Awesome. What were some big takeaways for you, Stacy? Corbin, this is your first webinar. Good to have you. Jeanette, she wants to semi-retire and never left the US, looking to do some scouting. Perfect. I highly recommend scouting. And a location like Portugal. Awesome. Any other Portugal fans? I'm a huge fan of Portugal. They have the D7. They have the digital nomad. Scott here, our guest expert, he's also into Portugal. Awesome. Yeah, tell us where you guys are calling from, where you want to move to. We're here to also make friends. Like, feel free to connect with each other. If you see anybody else that's going to the country that you want to go to, feel free to reach out to them. Okay, let's get started. So I'm so excited to have you guys. And first of all, I wanted to kind of like set the intention of this webinar, like why I really wanted to have this. Finances play a huge part, obviously, when you move abroad. So I've done, besides living in a lot of different places in the US, I moved to Barcelona. I lived there for 5 years. So Spain is like my favorite. If you guys have any questions about Spain, feel free to ask me. I also have lived in France. And now I'm digital nomading. So I'm in Asia. So along with this whole process comes the planning part, because we obviously have timelines and we have, oh my gosh, the D7 is saying that it, you know, it's a passive income visa. Like, how much do I need to have saved, or the non-lucrative in Spain? So there's all these visas that actually have these requirements. So it's really important. Like, that's why I wanted to put this together, is because I'll kind of give you guys a little bit of background. I was living in Spain for 5 years. I started my 2 online businesses there. And so that's really awesome because it gives me the mobility to move around. And then I'm able to apply for like digital nomad visas if I ever want to move. Met my husband. Unfortunately, my dad got really sick and he actually passed away in 2021, which forced me to move back to the US. Wasn't planning on moving back to the US. And it pretty much threw everything. You know, when that happens, it's a really hard time. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to turn like negatives into positives, did my healing. I also started working with Scott, started getting my finances in order because I have really big goals. And I don't know if you guys have really big goals. Somebody tell me what your goals are. Like, do you have a project that you want to hit? Do you have a property that you're planning on buying in Spain or Malta or Portugal? I am planning to open a retreat center actually in Spain. And I'm really passionate about it, obviously, because I've been through the grief process and I want to help people heal. So I reached out to Scott because I was like, okay, look, I've just sold my home. What do I do? And so the strategies that he taught me, and just like that confidence of having like a mapped out plan of like, okay, in 2 years, you're not going to have to touch your principal and you'll be able to have that 30% deposit, but we have to wait 2 years and then you can start your project. So that's one of the first goals that I'm going to hit. And all of that is through, you know, high yield cash reserve and some other strategies that we're going to talk about. So anyways, that is really the intention. Let me know your guys, you know, goals for the future. I really want to know, just obviously, so we can give context to what you guys are working towards. And I would love to introduce my friend and my financial advisor, Scott, because he's really helped me so much. And anyway, Scott, welcome. And do you mind like sharing with everybody who you are, what you do?
Of course, of course. So my name is Scott Durrett. I am a financial advisor with Ameriprise Financial, which is the largest financial planning firm in the country. You may or may not have heard of that up until the year 2005. We were American Express Financial Services, been around for over 120 years in one shape or form. I have been with Ameriprise for 10 years. I've been here in Los Angeles. My office is in Century City, which for those of you who don't know LA that well, right next door to Beverly Hills and not too far from Hollywood. I can actually see the Hollywood sign from my office, which is really cool. I've been in Los Angeles 30 years, originally from the Midwest, Cincinnati, Ohio, and came out here for college and, of course, stepped off the plane and never wanted to go back to Ohio. Not that I don't dislike Ohio, but, you know, Southern California is great. So I have been working with Shauna for quite a while and really excited to get into this money management niche industry. For those of you that are looking to move abroad, I've been working with a number of Shauna's clients to generate regular income from assets to help with, you know, monthly expenses wherever they might be. Clients going to Central America, South America, and Europe, that sort of thing. Making sure that they have a nest egg that provides income that's needed, so they don't even need to touch their principal, which is nice to have. Yeah, so here to help guide you, let you know some of the financial aspects of what I do, some different strategies based on your needs. And what I'll usually do is, if you are interested in working with me, I can set up a virtual chat, or of course, if you're in Southern California, LA area, would love to meet you at the office or wherever is convenient for you. But I'll get an idea of what your situation is, offer a few strategies, and at the end of the day, you make the decision because you are the boss, and you let me know financially what your needs are. So
can I add to that, Scott? Like, the other thing I wanted to mention is there's so many different levels when you're applying for these visas, guys. So there are some visas, like the non-lucrative, that really wants to see like a set amount. They want to see 28,000 euros per year. And that's just for the initial year. And then that's like renewed for a total of 5 years, that non-lucrative visa in Spain. So how are we generating that so that we obviously can prove that on an application? Some of you may have that, which is great. Some of you may have other bigger goals than that, bigger than I just need to get approved. But some of you may not even have that. And so this is really for everybody. If you're just starting, if you have started a really long time ago, and then if that route isn't, say you did go for the application, you don't have enough. There's other routes too. So I don't want you to think either that you have to have like a huge amount of money to also move abroad, because there's other options too. So you would have to first do like a realistic analysis of what these places will cost you, which if you're choosing Europe, South America, it's pretty cheap. And either start saving so you meet these requirements, which we're going to touch on today, and some of the strategies. And sorry, I was just letting 2 more people in. Or you find a different visa route that still counts towards the permanent residency, and that has a path to permanent residency. So like even if you are just starting out, you can still get in through student visa, and it doesn't matter the age. So there's so many different options, and I don't want you guys to like feel like this is we're just talking to people that already have investments. So it's really for everybody. And that's what I also wanted to open this up, for, is like, no matter what your investment is, like you can get started at any point. Anyways, back to Scott.
Somebody put in the chat about the sound. So I'm not sure if that's applicable, if they're speaking about you or me, but it sounds like maybe we need to turn our sound up a little bit. Or
can you guys all hear the sound okay? If you guys could put yes in the chat.
Okay, great.
Okay, Jason says yes. Jennifer, okay, good.
Okay.
Awesome.
So maybe somebody on the call is having internal issues, but it sounds like everybody can hear pretty well. So that's great. I also wanted to piggyback onto Shauna's point, because working with some of her clients, especially a specific one I can think of who was looking at Panama or Mexico, some of these places to move to. And to get the visa for some of these countries, you have to show assets and regular recurring income. So for one of the countries he was going to, because we just started working together within a few months, there was an issue because the assets that I had taken over for this gentleman and was generating income had only generated that income for a few months. And one of the countries he was looking at was saying, we want to see a full year of this income. And so that kind of took that country out of the equation, if you will. But it's really important to find out exactly what that visa requires, so you and I can work together to show that history, to get started early and make sure you're meeting the requirements for that particular country's visa, so we don't have any issues. You sell your property, you get ready to go, and all of a sudden you realize, hey, I don't have what's needed to get a visa into that country. And I'm sure Shauna can speak to that, and every country's different, but and she's the expert to be able to guide you in that aspect.
The one that he was talking about, actually, you guys, it was Mexico. Mexico has just randomly raised for retirees, like the expectations and like the parameters. They wanted to see for 12 months. Don't quote me on this because I don't have it open, but I have it in my notes. Something like, was it 58, Scott? It was like 58K, or was it 68? They wanted to put that in an account without being touched for like 12 months.
Yeah, and generating a certain amount of recurring income, which is an issue. And politically, I'm sure these governments are saying we don't want people coming over, not having the cash, and then having to utilize the government to help bail us out. And so they want to know that you're financially stable to be able to live there without having any sort of issues. But that's also something that we look at when I work with people in financial planning, which is the bread and butter of what I do. I do some basic asset management for my clients, but more comprehensive financial planning is helpful, especially in these situations. but
Yeah.
we just want to make sure that we're meeting the requirements in the respective country that you're looking to move to. We have a little bit of history first. Not that if you're, looking to move within a month or two, there's not options, but, and this is something that Shauna is such an expert at, that she can help guide you as to how you and I would need to work together to fulfill that requirement.
Yeah. So can I ask you, so I know you had some things to maybe share, but what are the strategies that you can, hopefully all of you guys can take this away, and start utilizing these strategies. But can you kind of share some of those with us?
Yeah, so some of those are, having a certain amount of assets in an income type investment. And there's a million different ways we can work with that, whether it's guaranteed income for life using variable annuities, whether it's high dividend fixed income positions that can earn between 5 and 12%, pay on a monthly basis. So we can actually have that money regularly transferred to an external bank account, so you can show that income, but more importantly, have that income available to you every month for your living expenses. And fortunately, a lot of these places are a lot more affordable. And so we don't have quite the requirements that we might have to fund your retirement like you might have in the United States, which I know is the reason a lot of people are moving abroad, to live more comfortably financially, and also, of course, explore other cultures and maybe move to countries that are more like-minded to your values and goals. So
Yeah.
With that being said, what I wanted to do today was go through a quick little slideshow, and some of it might be applicable to moving abroad. Some of it's just basic financial strategies or habits that you want to get in place. So bear with me for those of you that are a little bit more experienced in this sort of thing. But hopefully this is informative and helps get you on a head start here.
I think I have to make you host.
Yeah.
I believe. And by the way,
Yeah.
I'm going to take questions, guys, the last 20, 25 minutes. We are very generous, so I don't know if Scott has to leave, but 20, 25 minutes. I'm seeing your questions in the chat, so just feel free to keep asking, and then we'll get to them at the end. I'm going to make you...
Yeah, because it's saying host disabled participant screen sharing, so I need to be...
Fun Zoom problems, right? No, I'm just kidding. Let me make you the host then. 1 second. I just had your name. There it is. Make host. So perfect. All right, there you go.
There we are. Now I can. All right. Can everybody see my Saving Money 101 screen?
Yes.
Great. Great. So, a lot of this information is probably going to be pretty basic, but hopefully it is informative and will help. And Shauna, it's saying, do I need to allow people in the waiting room here?
I mean, if you can, but if not, it's okay. I'm going to have I can send them the replay later, but don't worry about it. I want you to stay focused because I know you're not the real host.
Okay. Sorry about the people. I just wanted to make sure everybody could join. Anyway, so, of course, when you're going to be moving abroad, you want to make sure that you have specific streams of income in place, specific goals, of course, something that I work with my clients with. And so, we want to make sure that we're aware of the importance of goal setting, planning for those goals, making sure everything is in place to accomplish those goals. So we're going to talk a little bit about budgeting, managing debt, improving credit, saving and investing, and just developing good financial habits going forward. So, one of the goals here, of course, save more than you spend. pay off all debt in a reasonable amount of time and maintain a healthy credit score. We want to make sure, of course, that we're not racking up debt that's charging you 19, 22, 25% rates. Of course, similar to interest rates going up means credit card rates are going up. So we want to have that safety net in place, a good cushion financially, but also make sure that we're taking care of debt in a timely manner. If we're paying off a credit card that's charging you 20%, but we are making sure that we're putting enough money in an account that might be earning you 5, 7, 10%. Well, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We're playing a losing game. So we want to make sure we take care of that high interest rate debt as soon as we can. One of the things I like to work on when I do financial planning is getting an idea of the income and how much you spend. Ensuring monthly expenses are covered, spend money wisely. I think that goes without saying. But what I do with my clients is I usually break up what's called essential expenses and lifestyle expenses. So we want to make absolutely sure, of course, that the essential expenses are covered with your income. So paying rent, paying a mortgage if you're looking to purchase a place overseas somewhere, and of course all the basics, your electric bill, cost to maintain your car if you're going to have a car over there, everything that you need to spend money on to keep your life going. So and then the next thing we look at is lifestyle expenses. So we have the type of income and assets to be able to cover all the fun stuff you want to do overseas, traveling around the area, experiencing all the wonderful things there are in your respective country, and being able to do little things, go out to dinner and really explore the culture and have the type of money that you need to fund that exploration, if you will. So this kind of goes through some of these expenses: medical expenses, the debts, the home, that sort of thing, lifestyle expenses, going out for a good coffee or dinner, traveling, that sort of thing. So one of the ratios that we look to do is making sure you have 50% of your cash, of your income, that will cover your fixed expenses, 20% to financial goals, things you're saving up to look at building a down payment for a home, for example, things like that. Having enough money to do this process, to travel, to get set up in that respective country, that sort of thing. And then 30% flexible income for, again, all the fun stuff that you want to do. Managing debt and credit, track how much debt you have a plan to be able to extinguish that debt. That's something I work on with a lot of my clients, extinguishing debt in a timely manner. Pay bills to build up good credit. That might be a little bit not quite as applicable, or things work differently when it comes to credit in your respective new home. But that's certainly something that's important to take a look at. And also, if you do decide to come back to the United States, we want to make sure that you're in a good spot credit wise. And then usually we'll look at applicable credit cards that are going to accomplish the things you like to do. And for most of you, I'm sure that means miles for flying. So we want to make sure we identify a good card to build up miles so you're able to earn free trips.
Hey, Scott, I actually have a recommendation for 2 cards if you guys want to know. The Chase Sapphire Preferred, they have a signing bonus where if you spend $4,000 in the first 2 months, you get, I think it's 65,000 bonus points just handed to you. So that's basically a round trip flight to and from, US, Europe, and back, right? So round trip flight to Europe. And then the Capital One Venture as well is this pretty much the same thing. And I leverage these cards when I'm traveling. And then they also have other protections like rental car, insurance. So you just waive the rental car, the country's rental car agreement, and then you're covered. That actually helped us in Barcelona when somebody actually hit our car when we were not there. So anyways, if you guys want to get those, I'll put them in the chat as well.
And to piggyback onto that, one of the things I also do with credit card debt is I work with my clients to identify a good card that offers a balance transfer at 0.0%. So that enables us to be able to pay off debt a little bit quicker because you're not accumulating any interest. And there's a few cards that I can recommend as well, to Shauna's point, that offer 21 months of interest-free debt. So you consolidate everything on the new card, depending on your credit score. You know, that's another reason it's important to have a good credit score. And you can pay off that debt a little bit slower without incurring any interest. And that's something I work on with my clients, developing spreadsheets and timelines on when cards end that 0.0, but a really great way to extinguish debt without incurring too much interest. So another important thing when it comes to both, especially when it comes to your credit score, is your debt to income ratio. So you want to make sure that based on these percentages, you know, what raises the red flags. If your debt is approaching 40% of your income, then that's a concern not only for you and me as your financial advisor, but also how that may or may not affect your credit score. So, you know, one of the things that I do, of course, is making sure we have an adequate cash reserve. And usually what we shoot for is about 6 months of your fixed expenses in a cash reserve account. And usually the strategies that I work on and been working on with Shauna and some of the other clients are ways to develop fixed income, bonds, certain things like that. We want to stay away from the stock market because if this is your cash reserve, we don't want to risk up and downs of the stock market. You need money, and all of a sudden, the day you need money, the market drops 10%, and we're having to sell assets at a loss. So we want to stay away from that. When it comes to your income, fixed income type products, money market funds that now are yielding over 5%, all the way up to higher yielding exchange traded funds that yield between 10 and 12%. So a real easy way to really boost that income in a timely manner. And the longer we have before you move, the better, because we can continually grow that income for you before you start to take that income. So the longer the time horizon, the better. So for those of you who are not really all that experienced in investing, there are essentially three types of investments. And of course, this is high level. We can go into more detail if you want to talk one-on-one, but there are three types of investments. Stocks, that's when you own a tiny little piece of a company. So you buy some stock in Apple and you are a co-owner of the company. You own a tiny little piece. As Apple grows, your investment grows. Bonds or fixed income is a way that you become the bank. So you buy a bond from Apple, and you might buy $1,000 bond that has a maturity date in 5 years. Apple takes that money. They invest in developing the next iPhone. While they borrow your money, they pay you an interest rate. Again, you become the bank. Apple might pay you 5% on your loan to them. So every year you're making 5% on your $1,000 bond, or $50. Eventually that bond matures. Let's say it's a 5-year maturity. After 5 years, you get your $1,000 back. All the time earning that 5% each year on the loan you give to them. The third common investment is what's called a mutual fund, which has a huge basket of stocks and bonds in it. If it's an aggressive mutual fund, it's predominantly stocks. Moderate might be 60% stocks, 40% bonds. If you're very conservative, or if you're looking for avoiding any sort of market swings, you're looking at a mutual fund that predominantly invests in bonds or what we like to call fixed income. One thing that I do like to point out is the cost of waiting. So if you see here, we've got two examples, and this is why waiting to invest is counterproductive to what you're trying to do. So in this case, you see You've got Penelope. She's got a 30-year time frame. She invests nothing for the first 10 years. She contributes $200 a month for the next 20 years. And she's got roughly $48,000. In the case of Piper, we've got a 30-year time frame, but she starts from day one, $100 a month for 20 years, and then doesn't invest anything for the next 10 years. And you see here quite a significant difference in the income or the growth of that position that Piper has, who spent half of the investment, half of the contribution to this investment, and still has quite a bit more cash. So Penelope contributed $48,000, has certainly a much less basket of cash. So getting started early is a key. So you see here quite a difference. Penelope's got $118,000 with a $48,000 investment. Piper's got $131,000. In this case, of course, with a $24,000 investment. I show this to a lot of people and they say, oh my gosh, let's get started today. I don't want to wait anymore. So really important. That's what we call the time value of money. One of the things that we want to do when it comes to investing, diversify. You always hear this from people in the industry. You need to diversify, And so what I like to do is I like to show this graph here, or this little graphic that shows, in the previous slide here, you've got all your investments in one investment. Let's say you have everything in Apple stock. Apple takes a big dive. You've got one position, so you're at the mercy of that one company. And that can derail your goals because your investment can dip dramatically when you need the money. So what we look to do is this represents diversification. So in this case, you've got 12 different investments. If one investment struggles, it's not going to ruin your whole portfolio. And in most of the people on this call, in your situation, it's critical for you not to have to incur a reduced investment at the time the market takes a dump. So,
hey Scott, can I ask you a quick question about diversification? And Linda is asking a question in the chat. Feel free to guys ask more questions. And if it applies to what we're talking about, we'll for sure answer that right now, but also answer it at the end. Linda's asking, what about the options for those of us starting late, like age 65 plus? I think it kind of is similar to like the archetype that we were talking about before.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, it's never too late. But one thing that we need to keep in mind is when we do have a shorter time horizon, where we are going to have to expect slightly less growth of income in those positions. And it's a matter of us navigating the types of investments and the types of income that you need. Sometimes if we are getting started a little bit later and we need to hit a certain goal, we might have to take on a little bit more risk. And, something I don't like to do for folks that need kind of a regular steady income in the very near future. But, based on your situation, we'll develop the best course of action to get to that particular goal. And when I work with financial planning, we look at, inputting the type of money that we have to invest, the expected percentage rate of income or growth that we can expect. And you'll know exactly what kind of income that you can expect based on our projections and based on some of the software I use to crunch numbers. So again, not too late, but we need to adjust strategies based on a shorter time horizon. So, but that is a fantastic question, something that I hear all the time with my clients. So again, this kind of shows some of the things I'm talking about when it comes to investing aggressively. You see the dark blue line in this case. has a much larger proportion of stocks versus bonds or fixed income. So as we ramp up aggressiveness, you see this blue bar move further to the left. So here's another example of diversification. In this case, we've got a $10,000 investment that we take on for a year. Penelope's return is roughly 6%. The market has returned about 7 or 8% since inception. That's not to say some years we don't see big drops in value. Some years we certainly exceed that 6%, but 6 or 7%. So we're being a little bit conservative here with Penelope, but and you know, this is another good representation of diversification. So in this case, Penelope puts all of her money into a single stock, earns that 6%. And the difference here, of course, is that Piper is much more diversified, has a mixed basket of stocks, can weather the storm if there's an initial loss, looking at different points in time based on the stock market, and certainly, as this graph shows, earns quite a bit more. Then one of the last things that I'll talk about is the value of investing on a regular basis versus putting that whole bucket of cash into a stock portfolio. This is a little bit different than my fixed income strategies, but just shows you the power of dollar cost averaging. In this case, Penelope takes her full $500 investment, invests in shares at $10. So she's purchased 50 shares. In Piper's situation, instead of investing the full $500 on day one, she invests $100 every month. So on the 19th of every month, she puts $100 into her diversified investment. And this dollar cost averaging process shows being able to purchase shares every month based on that fluctuation in share price. So in January, she's able to purchase shares at $10. In February, the share price has dipped down to $6. The good thing is now she's able to buy more shares at a cheaper price. That stock is on sale, if you will. So we're adding more shares at a lower price. As the stock starts to ramp up in value every month, we're adding more shares. And again, these are at lower prices than the $10 initial purchase. So we are adding more shares at a cheaper price. And then as that share price starts to eclipse our original $10 price, we're still adding shares every month, but fewer shares of that particular stock because it's more expensive. So in the long run, what we're looking at here is you'll see the difference in share price, $10 a share at $500 cost. When we get to 5 months later, we're at $600. Now, Piper's strategy, of course, we have an average share price of $9.15 throughout that period of $100 purchases a month. We've got 4.64 more shares purchased and a portfolio value at $656 versus $600. So this is a strategy that we like to call dollar cost averaging. Something that's very important and something I can go to in more detail and something we would implement in the type of investing that we do. Good habits for the future, have a plan, work with a financial advisor. Of course, I'd love to help you. I'd like to be that financial advisor, but have a plan in place versus let's just put money in a pot, hope it grows, and we'll see if we can cover our expenses when we move. It's much more, gives you peace of mind to have that plan in place. Never too early to begin saving, to the point of the previous lady, never too late. We just have to adjust our strategy, but the sooner we can get started, the better. Don't let the debt that you've incurred bring you down. we can develop a plan to extinguish that as well and work that in tandem with growing the income that you need. And then back to budgeting, of course, know where your money is going. Have a good idea every year every month of where that monthly income is going, so you can make adjustments accordingly and get yourself in a better financial spot. So again, a little bit simple, money 101, but certainly want to answer any sort of questions. Shauna, how do I give, let's see, how do I give you back the, you're on mute.
I just claimed it back, so we're good.
Okay, good.
Thank you so much, Scott. And like, guys, feel free to ask your questions. I see a couple here in the chat. If you want to raise your virtual Zoom hand, don't be shy. We're all on this journey together and we're here to help. So I actually did have a question. And guys, ask your questions. I'll get to them as I see them. But I also wanted to just share the reason, what I liked about what you did is like the goal thing that we did, the goal exercise, where I told you guys, I want to open a retreat center in Spain, and then I want to have properties in Malaga as well as Valencia. So with my investment, I was like, I was thinking, oh, let me just invest all that at once. And Scott was like, hold up, don't make that mistake. So it was really nice to be able to get that from somebody and not make, silly mistakes just because I'm not an expert. But I wanted to share with you guys like what he has me in high yield cash savings, which is, I don't know if you're able, is that okay if we share like what it's generating for me?
It's up to you. If you want to share, I'm happy to. So for Shauna,
I'm happy to share.
Yeah. So for Shauna, we've got about 4 to 5 different accounts, each of them with a different goal. And so the idea here is develop an account that generates fixed income per month that she can utilize should she need it when she's over in Spain. So she's got a bucket of cash that we don't need to touch the principal. We can just utilize that monthly income. So like a pension or Social Security, that sort of thing. So another stream of income. Then we also have a more aggressive stock portfolio that we're growing, and that's going to be earmarked for building the properties that Shauna wants to build. She's got a great vision of buying some land, building her residential home, and then having rental properties on that piece of land. And as we go through the numbers and her expected costs, we put that into a financial plan. And I tell Shauna, okay, we can get to this goal based on what your expected costs are for the real estate in a year and a half, based on how we invest. Or, hey, Shauna, we want to get to that goal. There's a little bit of a shortfall. So we need to look to add this much money to the investment per month to get to that point. Or hopefully we get to the point where we're ahead of the game and I say, Shauna, we don't need to make any more contributions because we're on pace to hit our goal or exceed our goal. And so mixing it up in that sort of manner and also generating tax deferred money for much later on in retirement, which also helps save money on taxes. Now, how that applies to, internationally, that's something beyond my scope. I am not licensed to offer any tax advice. I try and line up your investments for tax savings, but you do need to speak to a CPA about that sort of thing. And Shauna's going to have a wonderful seminar with a CPA who specializes in these issues. So taxes abroad, how that income affects your taxes in the United States. Any little question that CPA, because of what they specialize in, is going to be.
Yeah, I saw a lot of tax questions before the webinar. Those are going to be answered on Sunday, guys. I have a Move Overseas Now club and you guys can join the call. I have Steph. He's actually a global tax expert and he's going to be coming on. It's just live Q&A the whole time. So feel free to come to that. I'll drop the link there. Can you also, Scott, talk about what I loved was that, okay, I told you my goals. I want to retire at 45. I want to have all these properties. And then you just identified another way to have this tax deferred income after 10 years, which was the life insurance policy. That's another really cool strategy that I never heard when I was working with my advisor at like Edward Jones, for example. They weren't
Right.
so creative with the combination of things. Can you
Yeah.
kind of explain what and
Absolutely.
refresh my brain, because I'm not, I might have forgotten exactly all of the points, but what exactly that's going to be doing.
Absolutely. So it's important to note that as an Ameriprise advisor, I'm licensed above and beyond most financial advisors or folks that might manage your money. They all have a Series 7 license, which enables you to buy and sell stocks on your behalf. I also have a 66 license that most advisors don't have, and that holds me to a higher standard, makes me a fiduciary. And I'm required by my license, not that I wouldn't, but I'm required to do what's in your best interest and what's most suitable for you, and offer objective financial advice that a lot of advisors aren't licensed for. The third license I have, and this applies to what Shauna was saying, is a insurance license to offer protection solutions. Because if I'm growing your assets, but I'm not protecting those assets, I'm not doing a complete job as your financial advisor. So one of the things that I put in place for Shauna and for a lot of my clients is what's called a variable universal life insurance policy. And I can build a policy based on whatever your needs are. Now, the most important thing with this, especially for young folks like Shauna, is these types of products have living benefits, okay? Most people, when I talk about insurance, they look at me like I have three eyes. They say, hey, I'm young. What do I need a death benefit for? Well, the death benefit is not the strategy for these types of investments. The benefit is twofold. Number one, you put in your premium, a portion of your premium goes to pay for the cost of insurance, because there is a death benefit with these, but a portion of the premium goes into an investment bucket inside the portfolio. So for those of you who are well versed with types of IRAs, IRAs stand for individual retirement account. It's kind of like having a Roth IRA inside the policy that grows tax-free. And depending on the performance of that investment bucket inside the insurance policy, usually that bucket of cash that's available to you after 10 years exceeds the premiums you put in. So you've now got more money than you put in. You've got a never-ending death benefit no matter how long you live. And what I like to also do, which is critical for most people these days, is utilize a rider called a long-term care rider, which means any and all of the death benefit can be used for your long-term care costs. So that means we've got two living benefits, long-term care coverage and a big bucket of cash you can use for whatever you want. And long-term care is critical for folks because a couple statistics, 70% of people in retirement are going to need some sort of long-term care. The average cost in today's dollars is $100,000 a year, and the average usage is 3 years. So I tell my clients, do we want to build a bucket of cash in an account earmarked for long-term care, which may take a while, or do we want to put a little bit of money down each month or each year to get you protected from day one? Because with these types of policies, the minute you put down your first premium, you immediately have that full long-term care coverage. Whatever your death benefit is your coverage. So you can use any and all of that death benefit for long-term care coverage. And we don't have to touch your retirement accounts or your other assets, because if we didn't have that in place, it would ruin our entire financial plan, short-term and long-term.
Thank you so much for explaining that. I want to get to some questions. Jennifer asks, thanks for asking your question, Jennifer. What would you suggest for early retirement planning between 50 and 59 and a half to avoid additional taxes and penalties with qualified retirement plans during those early years? Mutual funds, SEPP under Rule 72T, Roth contributions, or laddering?
Great question. And you know, every every person is going to be different. And that's why building a financial plan based on your specific financial situation is important. Now, as the attendee mentioned, what if you retire before 59 and a half? Now, 59 and a half is the first year you can start to draw on IRAs, on an old 401k, any sort of qualified retirement plan. You cannot draw on that money before 59 and a half, or you pay a penalty, 10% penalty on the money that you pull out. So we want to avoid that as best we can. If we want to generate income before that, it's certainly important to look at fixed income. Some of the things I touched on before that usually generate between 5 and 10, 11, 12%. Another thing that we can do to generate income, especially if you're in a high tax bracket, is look at municipal bonds. Municipal bonds are a tool that generates income for you that is 100% tax-free. So if you buy municipal bonds as a California resident that are California municipal bonds, then you pay no taxes federally and no taxes with the state. Now, if you have municipal bonds from other states and you're a California resident, you will pay a state tax. You will not pay a federal tax. Municipal bonds throughout the country are 100% federal tax-free. If they're bonds outside of the state, you will pay the state tax in your respective state, which of course is much smaller, but you are exposed to that. Now, municipal bonds work kind of in the same way as the corporate bonds, the Apple bond. A particular city wants to raise money to build a new bridge over, a toll bridge. And so they issue municipal bonds. We all buy those bonds. We receive an interest from that bond tax-free. And eventually that municipality or that city will pay you back your initial investment the whole time they've been paying you an interest rate. And again, that interest is 100% tax-free. So, but there's a lot more things that we can look to do: dividend stocks, different types of investment that generate that income before you're of 59 and a half. And again, everything is different for everybody. So we can use lots of different vehicles, variable annuities, lots of different types of ideas that I have for each and every individual.
Awesome. Jennifer, I hope that helped answer your question. Let me know if you want me to put you in contact after the call, and let us know if that helped in the chat. Let's move on to the next question. You guys feel free to ask a couple questions. We can go a little bit, Scott, when do you need to jet off? Maybe like 10? I
have put aside enough time here to stay on as long as you need me to and ask questions. I pushed back all my meetings just for you all. So I'm here as long as you need me.
Okay, cool. So cool. Let's go to the next question. And by the way, guys, on Sunday, there is a Move Overseas Now club call. It's basically my exclusive membership. We meet every other Sunday. We're actually going to be finishing the visa chat. So last week we touched on Portugal. I'm going to be recapping on the Portugal visas, the Spain visas, as well as other EU visas, digital nomad visas, as well as the Latin American ones. And then the tax expert is also going to be coming on. His name is Steph. He's actually a friend, and he's also a digital nomad, but he's specifically for global tax in Europe. So you guys are going to definitely want to jump on that call on Sunday. It's at 10 a.m. PST, and it happens every other Sunday. I'll put the link in the chat so you guys can become a member. Jason asks, what ETFs do you recommend for your Roth IRA?
Yeah, good question. One of the ones that it really depends on what the goal is of that money, because if it is growth, we want to look at a stock exchange traded fund. If it is income, then we're going to be looking at something much different. So one of the things I like to incorporate when it comes to income is exchange traded funds that invest in what's called BDCs, or business development companies. And And those exchange traded funds or close-end funds, lots of different verbiage or titles, if you will, those usually will yield 8, 9, 10%. Now, if you're looking at a combination of income and growth in your equity, there are stocks that pay a much higher dividend. Some can pay 5, 6%. And if you incorporate an expected 7% growth rate on a 6% yielding stock, your growth is going to be roughly 13% per year, so much more impressive. The question was ETFs. ETF stands for exchange traded funds, which is just like a mutual fund, but it's traded on the market. A mutual fund itself is traded through the mutual fund manager. So if it's a JP Morgan Chase mutual fund, they have a mutual fund manager who manages the assets inside that, and you buy it directly from Chase. With an exchange traded fund, same type of investment. It's a basket of stocks and investment vehicle, but you can buy and sell it on the market, on the stock market, versus buying it directly from the mutual fund manager. One of the ETFs for growth and income that I like to utilize is one called COWS, and that ticker symbol is COWZ. And what that type of investment does is it invests in companies that are swimming with cash. So they have, a much wider moat when it comes to any sort of issues. When companies are swimming with cash, they usually will pay a higher dividend for their shareholders, which says, hey, thank you for owning our stock. We're going to give you a 4, 5, 6% dividend just for holding the stock. But that's a good ETF to look at, COWZ. And then some of the high yield investments that I like to use, one that's called JQC, and that's a fixed income type of fund that yields about 10%. And of course, I have tons of different ideas and assets that I like to invest in. Again, some are more geared toward growth, which is important for younger folks. Some are geared more toward fixed income or high yield, which is more important for older folks or people that are getting ready to retire or already in retirement. So that's kind of high level, but of course, I can go into more detail with you based on your specific goals.
Yeah, so that was Jason. Thanks, Jason, for your question. Actually, Jason and I went to high school together, which is really funny. So it's good to see you, Jason. Yeah, he went to Venice High. Yeah, okay. Yeah, right around the corner. Hey, Todd, I wanted to know, are you still on the call? He asked a question more towards the beginning, but he said, how much would 500K or 1 million realistically get in dividends every month? And then how do you transfer to euros when moving to our Portugal bank account?
Great question. So I guess the first answer would be, well, it really depends on the type of dividend stocks that you're purchasing. But let's say, usually blue chip stocks, high quality companies that you've heard of might pay 3 or 4%, which incorporating that with the growth might get you a 10 or 11% return when it comes to growth in your equity as well as the income. But if we have a $500,000 investment that's yielding you 4%, you'd be looking at about $20,000 per year of income, or about $1,667 of dividend income per month. So in those situations, you're just taking the income with the hope that we're invested in the right stock that's going to get you steady growth in principal as well. So your $500,000 investment that you wouldn't touch because you're just drawing on the income. Let's say that grows at 7%, again, the average. And so the next year, if you're growing at 7%, your $500,000 investment would be $535,000. And so that's, just an example of a 4% yielding dividend stock. And what I look to do, depending on your time horizon, is be a little bit more aggressive as you're younger and be a little bit more conservative as you as you age, because we have less margin for error when you don't have employment or regular income outside of your investments. Great question.
Yes, great question. Thanks so much, Todd. Hopefully you're still here to get that. I'll send the replay though. Hopefully I can maybe reach him. I can't talk. Send an email to him to let him know we answered his question. Seema, I love your question. It's very loaded. There's a lot of questions in that question. So I think for this webinar, we will touch on like the financial side of it, but I'm happy to touch on that on Sunday on the Move Overseas Now club call, because I know some of your questions kind of tie into like visas and different countries. And we're going to talk about that on Sunday. But her question is, how much should we save ahead of time? And I mean, I feel like I can touch on that a little bit, Seema, but again, it boils down to like, what visa is it that you're trying to go for? You know, Mexico, for this one that we were helping our client with, they had all these ors. So it was, you do this, or you have to show this, or you have to show this. So sometimes there's ors. They want to see 5,000 per month for retirees, or they want to see a lump sum over 12 months time. So it really depends on the country. Portugal, D7 wants to see passive income of about 700 a month, but that you also have a significant amount in a Portuguese bank account. So, I mean, it really depends on which country you're going to. And then what are some good international banks? Well, there's N26. That's a really good one. There's WISE, W-I-S-E. That's what I use for the transfers. And that can maybe answer Todd's question. Really low fees. You can transfer from your American bank account to your Spanish, to your whatever country in the world. And it's super low fees. So I would look up WISE. Also, there's Revolut. I think the rest of the questions, which is like visa requirement, we can get into that on Sunday. But yeah, I hope that maybe helps a little bit. But yeah, I'm happy to spend more time on that on Sunday if you want.
And Shauna, just to add on to that point. So what I usually will do, especially in this gentleman's situation, a couple of things. Number one, the Mexican consulate asked for a letter from me confirming the details of the investments, the longevity of how long he had the investments. Because we just started working together for a few months, the consulate was not too happy with the fact that the history was short, and they wanted to see 12 months of this income. And we had a nice 10% yield for him on his money, but it was only showing 3 months. So depending on the country you're looking to move to, and of course I can provide letters to consulates, whatever is needed. But the longevity of that regular income is important. And also another thing that's important is that, for most of these clients, especially this particular gentleman, when we create Ameriprise accounts, we link them to a bank account, whichever bank account you like to use. It's important for that bank to have an affiliation, of course, in your respective country, so you can pull money from that bank in that respective country. One of the things that we do suggest is Charles Schwab has a good checking account that's applicable to most places around the world. And I would just link your Charles Schwab checking account to your Ameriprise account, so I could send you money when you need it, or set up just a recurring money movement directly to your Schwab account so you have it on a regular basis. Okay. On another note, I just saw somebody talk about, or earlier on, ask about where I'm licensed. They mentioned they were in Kentucky. Am I licensed in Kentucky? I am licensed in Kentucky. I'm licensed right now in about 30 to 35 different states across the country. But if you're in a state that I'm not licensed at, I can go ahead and submit that request to Ameriprise, to my home office, and say, hey, I need to be licensed in North Dakota because I have a client there. I'm not licensed right now. It usually takes just a day for them to register me in your respective state. So I will always be able to work with you no matter what state you live in, you reside in.
Yeah. Awesome. And yeah, David, I think you have Scott's info. It's in the chat. Let's see, is this all being recorded? Alice, yes, it is being recorded. I'll upload it to my YouTube channel so you guys can check that out. I will take a couple more questions and then we will wrap it up. I do have a flight tomorrow. I am flying to Delhi so that I can then go see the Dalai Lama speak. So definitely need to pack my bags in a little bit. Let me see. Do you see any questions that we haven't gotten to, Scott? Hold on.
Let's see here.
Okay. I'm scrolling through here, guys. And if you want to bump it up, I know Linda asked about starting late 65 plus, which we kind of talked about the example with our friend that is actually moving to Panama now. So we kind of touched on that. What do you think about renting out your house in the US while living abroad? Pros and cons. Jessica Jean. I'm actually doing that right now. So I would totally advise it. I mean, it's so okay, so we're doing a 5-month digital nomad journey. So like for those of you that might do scouting trips, you might go 3 months here and then you want to check out South America for 3 months, whatever that is. You can rent out your place, just sublease it. We have renters that are covering sublease. I mean, there's a contract and they're just taking over they're just paying for whatever we're paying. We're not making any money on it, but we're saving so much money by right now traveling around Asia and working online. So I would totally advise it. Obviously, you need to go with a trusted person. I found these people 2 weeks before I left. Yes, it's possible. I actually set this goal. It's very aggressive. I wouldn't recommend it. We decided to move abroad and do this digital nomad journey with 1 month's notice after my husband got his green card approved in the US and we had been trapped in the US for 2 years. So yeah, I mean, I would say just do it. I set this really stretchy goal because I wanted to show my clients that it's possible. And it totally is possible. I got my apartment covered in LA, it's a lot of money for rent in literally a span of 2 weeks. And that was just leveraging like network. I was networking. I was doing a big marketing push for this, but I have a lot of insights on that. So happy to talk about it more on the Move Overseas Now club call on Sunday, which is at 10. Let's get to Dennis's question. How to keep, and maybe we'll do 2 more and that's it. How to keep USA bank and investments accounts without triggering anti-money laundering checks by banks and government because no longer have a physical residence in the US.
So that's a great question as well. And we get all sorts of education on anti-money laundering. So I certainly hear about this and learn about this all the time in updated laws and that sort of thing. One thing that you will need to do if you move abroad, or 2 things, excuse me, you will want to keep your US citizenship, so dual citizenship in the United States and whatever country you're moving to, as well as the fact that you will need to have a power of attorney in the United States for us to be able to conduct business, because the person that I'm speaking to about trades and things on your behalf needs to be resided or physically in the United States. So one or the other. So you keep your residency and or you have a power of attorney that I can speak to about your trades. Otherwise, it can be a big no-no. And in terms of, accessing money here and there, that just has to do with having the proper bank in place that you can utilize in your respective countries. So there wouldn't be any issues with that question, but we do need to make sure a POA is in place, and it's always a good idea to keep dual citizenship in the United States in your respective new home.
Because and the secondary part of his question is, he says, I've heard that know your customer and anti-money laundering checks are becoming tighter and that you may have to show utility bills with your name on it, not just a family mailing address that you can use. Any thoughts? Because I had mentioned that I've lived abroad, guys, for 8+ years. I started in, I think it was, I don't even know what year it is now, but I started in 2015, so 7+ years. I've always used a family member's address when I've lived abroad. So the 5 years I was in Spain, my business is registered in the US. yes, my business is registered at my mom's house. If you talk to any of us that are doing this, like digital nomads, people that own businesses online, like 90% of them are doing this. And I chat with all my, friends that are also living abroad coaches. We all do this. We keep our names onto like family members' houses so that we can still have our bank accounts open. We can still have our phone bill, so that's what we do. We're not saying that you should do that, but yeah, if you want to answer his question, Scott, I just wanted to give that preface.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's important. And Linda just asked about a US postal address or PO box. That's another alternative. Keep a PO box here in the United States. So you have, communication, some sort of physical address, even if it's just a PO box. You can utilize that strategy as well to make sure that you have some sort of a connection or home base in the United States, if you will. So you don't have anybody, that's the other option. So that's a great question, Linda.
And to answer Dennis's second question about hold on, know your customer, anti-money laundering checks that are becoming tighter, and that you may have to show utility bills with your name on it, not just family mailing address. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, and that's probably more of a question for a CPA on what tax ramifications are. But in terms of just the investing side of thing, things are triggered at $10,000. So you need to try your best to avoid that sort of a red flag when it comes to money movement of more than $10,000. So, which in most cases is not really an issue. Number one, because we are domestically moving money to your linked bank here in the United States that does have that affiliation with an international bank. And also generally doesn't come into play with my clients that are just collecting monthly income, because for the most part, I'm not providing $10,000 a month. That may be different for some people, but so it's important that $10,000 number, if you will, is what raises a little bit of red flags from the SEC, and they take a closer look at your situation. Not to say that it's illegal or any sort of breaking any rules, but it just raises the awareness of you and your account financially here with the SEC.
Wow.
And the IRS.
Thank you for answering all these questions, and obviously for giving your time on this lovely holiday weekend. Guys, if anybody has any other questions, I'm happy to put you guys in touch with Scott. Please put yes in the chat if you'd like me to take some time and connect you guys via email. I believe I have all your guys' emails, so let me know if you do want me to put you in touch, and I will. Just put yes in the chat. And if anybody has one last question, feel free to ask. But again, super happy to see all you guys. Take control of your move abroad. I really know, like, it's first of all mindset, guys. Super, super important that you guys know that this is possible. I did it by myself 7 years ago. I didn't have anybody. Some of you moving by yourself, put yes, put by myself in the chat. Are you going with a partner? Put partner in the chat. I want to know where you guys are at. But it's really mindset, but then it's also like, I always teach all my clients for living abroad coaching. I'm like, okay, it's courage. And this is anything in life. It's courage plus committed action equals massive success. So you have to have a plan where you are consistently going after it each day. So if that's the visa route and you want to do it on your own, okay, well, how are you obtaining all this information? The hundreds of hours of research that you have to do to like really understand how to do it perfectly? Or are you, getting help from somebody that's going to show you how to do that? But really just start making those action plans. And we really talk about this a lot more on the Move Overseas Now club calls, which happen on Sundays. And it's really cool. I hook you guys up with my people on the ground. I have people all throughout Europe in terms of real estate agents, lawyers that I have vetted, and people have actually got their visas through them, to I give you guys visa trainings. There's actually an exclusive WhatsApp group that you guys get to be a part of. So if you guys want to do that, it's only $47 a month and you can cancel anytime. And there's 2 90-minute calls. So I will drop that again in the chat. We're going to be talking about taxes and visas on this Sunday's call at 10. It takes me a lot of time to plan it. So there's a lot of love that goes into this. And I just want you guys to know how to live this life, to kind of show you what I normally do when I'm in Spain. I have the month off in August. I work online. I maybe work like 5 or 6 hours a day because I don't need as much money to live in Spain. I work in the afternoons, and I can show you guys all how to do this. Work in the afternoons from like 2 p.m. to maybe like 8, and take my calls more in the afternoon, the evening, so that it accounts for American clients. And then on occasion, we bought a car that was like $1,000 to $2,000, really good shape. We drive around the Costa Brava, which is like the most beautiful part of Catalonia, where Barcelona is. And we jump off rocks. We go to private beaches with only like maybe 5 to 10 people. We go hiking. We go snowboarding in the summer or in the winter to Andorra. It's about 50 euros per day for a lift ticket versus here is $150 to $200. So just cost of living is just so much better. I love it so much. So if you guys have any other questions about life abroad, Europe, jump into the Move Overseas Now club call. If you don't want to come and commit to every Sunday, that's totally fine. I also have a wait list for my Move Overseas Now course. It's basically 100 hours of research that I have gathered from like these past 7+ years, and I'm putting it all into the course. So it's actually going to be step-by-step visa trainings, showing you how to do it, as well as like mindset stuff. I'm going to have remote job trainings. I have 2 clients right now that I'm helping getting remote jobs so that they can get the digital nomad visa. So actual steps that I teach my clients that, obviously invest a lot more, but it's going to be for like a pretty reasonable amount of money to learn how to do this without having to relearn everything and research everything from zero. So that's going to be dropping in November. So if you guys want to join that, I will also put the link here in the chat for the wait list. And then, yeah, does anybody have any other final comments, questions? Feel free to say thank you, come off mute and say thank you to Scott for being here. He did such a great job.
Thank you.
And thanks to you guys for like showing up for yourselves, because this is what it's all about.
Thank you.
It's about
You're welcome.
it's about doing this kind of stuff, but now it's like, what's the action you guys are going to put in to do it? Because that's another thing I notice with a lot of people that come to the summits. They come to a lot of these workshops and then they get overwhelmed and then they stop because it's too much information. So what are you going to do now to like make a plan so that you're on track? That's the advice I would like to leave you guys with. And Scott, do you want to say any final words? It's so good to see all you guys. And hopefully I'll see you on the next one too.
Excuse me, Shauna, I'm sorry. I have one more question if that's not too much, and I won't get too specific, but it's for Scott. So when you mentioned, I forgot how you termed it, but it's like your 10 months of rent or a certain amount of rent. It's like a kind of a safety slush fund. For that, like I'm building that up right now. And I'm wondering, do I put that into would you recommend putting that into a high yield savings account? And then if so, like what high yield savings accounts would you recommend?
Yeah, and there's a lot of options out there. American Express has a good online account. Ally Bank is one I recommend to a lot of my clients that earns, I think now they're up to 4.25%. But one thing that I do as well is I have a conservative way to create an Ameriprise brokerage account that serves just like an online Ally account, say, because it's linked to your respective bank. Is I go with a conservative money market fund that has, very little, might move a penny up or down in terms of the value, but it does earn a little over 5%, just as safe as putting it into an Ally account. And then usually what I'll do is I'll sprinkle in some higher yielding stuff in the account as well, where we're drawing the money market fund first and let the higher yielding positions reinvest those regular dividends to grow a lot faster. So, and depending on your level of aggressiveness, and we'll talk about that as well, we'll determine kind of how much high yield we put in there versus the money market fund. And so great question, but certainly there are ways to exceed some of those online high yield savings accounts, but those are great options. My usual go-to is Ally, ALLY.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks for the question. Okay, guys. Well, we're going to wrap it up. If you guys have any other final questions, feel free to email Scott. And if you put yes in the chat, I'll be reviewing the chat and connecting you guys. So good to see you. I plan on doing these. I don't want to say every couple of weeks, but at least once a month, because it is a lot of work to plan this, if you didn't know. And I'm already doing the Move Overseas Now club calls on Sundays. So I don't want to have every week, like just always doing something that I'm marketing and planning for, so I can actually relax. But yeah, once a month, I'm going to have these. I think the next one's going to be, I want to have Ana Clara come on. She's my lawyer in Portugal. So she's really awesome. If you guys need a contact to, like, if you want to talk to a lawyer to see if you qualify for any visas, let me know, because I have really good recommended ones. There's not many that speak English and like really know how to explain things the right way. So let me know. And thanks, Scott.
You're very welcome.
Awesome. Good to see all of you guys. And I hope you have a wonderful Friday and good holiday week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve.
Donna, we're here now.
Okay, good.
All righty.
And see you guys
Have
on
a wonderful
Sunday on the Move Overseas
Yep.
Now club call.
Thank
Okay,
you
bye.
both.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Have a
You're
great
welcome.
weekend.
Thanks, Nina. Thanks,
You too.
Corey. Thanks, Jessica. Corey's actually my stepbrother.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, Corey's here. That was so cool because I didn't know he was going to come. And then I just saw his name pop up.
That's funny.
Awesome. Okay. Well, good to see all of you guys. We're going to end it right now. Okay. See you, Scott. Have
Bye.
a good day. Thank you again. Bye.
You too.